Let's talk about the security challenges in Africa. In the last few months, we've seen two coups in Niger and Gabon, and since 2028, military takeovers. When countries like Nigeria chart their growth story, how much of this security challenge impacts what you're trying to do?
Well, you see, Nigeria is somewhat different when it comes to some of these challenges, even though it is our neighborhood, if you will. But we've had constitutional government, democratic government since 1999. We've had seven successive elections every 4 years. Our system has been tested over and again. We have had transitions between presidents. We've had transitions between political parties. The system was even tested further when, unfortunately, we lost a president in office. His vice president took over the reins of leadership. He contested an election, won, contested another election, lost. So we have a deliberative democratic system that rests on separation of powers and checks and balances. It's quite robust, and it cascades all the way down because we have, sub-state democratic system as well with 36 states, each one with its legislature, and it goes down to local government.
Sure, but in the region, in the neighborhood, what is your assessment of the security situation?
It is rather precarious. I think it's one that requires a concerted effort to reinforce institutions of democracy. The world needs to pay more attention to it. Part of the problem is, of course, the insurgencies and terrorist organizations that have been operating there, since the advent of jihadist terrorist groups, in the Sahel. We had, of course, the collapse of government and an anarchical situation in Libya. The proliferation of small arms, light weapons, in fact, even heavy weapons, in the region. So that has affected all of that. And some of the strategies that were applied, regrettably, did not work. So we're suffering the fallout of that failure, But let's leave the past. Let us look to the future. Nigeria has a very good track record at peace building. Not just peacekeeping, but peace building also. We led ECOMOG, along with the rest of the world, to settle Sierra Leone, to settle Liberia, when there was a sit-tight president after an election in Gambia not long ago. Nigeria led the way to make sure there was a smooth transition of power. So, there's a feel-good factor.
Your country also leads ECOWAS, and when the coup in Niger happened, there was a deadline that was set that the president should be reinstated, else there will be military intervention. That deadline has long passed, and we've seen that there have been deliberations. Is military intervention still an option on the table?
Absolutely, it's still on the table. It's not the only option. It's not the first option, but it is there, and it is, there to reinforce, the need to hand over the reins of leadership to the democratically elected leader of Niger. And it hasn't stopped diplomatic efforts. They're ongoing. There's so many channels that are being used, and we are hopeful that they will succeed, and we won't have to revert to a military option. And military option doesn't mean war with Niger. Nigeria and the people of Niger are one and the same. We share the same culture, same tradition, same history. Prior to colonialism, some of these borders did not exist. So there's no way, we're going to turn on the people of Niger. But the true situation is that the elected president, Bazoum, is held hostage by the leader of the presidential guards, and we hope that the situation can be resolved amicably.
You mentioned colonialism. A shadow of that is evident in what's happening today. We see sound bites coming out of Niger and Gabon, and there's a very strong anti-French sentiment, especially in Niger. Do you think that legitimizes what the coup leaders are trying to do at some level? Do you think that there is public sympathy for these leaders and against the democratically elected president?
Yeah, regrettably, the coup leaders have played a very smart game. They've appealed to public opinion, whipping up sentiment about colonialism, about the metropole, if you will. But the reality is that countries like Nigeria, that stood at the forefront of the fight against colonialism, against the liberation of African countries. You know, we were at the forefront. The term back then, when we were growing up, was Nigeria and the frontline states. People thought that Nigeria was right next to South Africa or Zimbabwe, you know. So we were there, you know, we did everything. We nationalized so many foreign business interests just to actualize the liberation of South Africa, of Zimbabwe, of Mozambique, of Angola. So, you know, we have a clean track record. So, you know, it would just be, you know, it's laughable to accuse a country of, like Nigeria of, you know, aligning with some neo-colonial position or some foreign interests. That is not the case. The truth is that there was an election in Niger, there was a democratically elected leader, and he's being held hostage.
If you look at the world right now, you know, a lot of things that we discussed, you mentioned vaccine apartheid, we talked about war, there is food insecurity with, you know, food grains being held in some places, climate change playing a role there. There were fears of recession. There's so much that's happening that directly impacts people. And you're present here at a forum where we are saying for the next few days, the world is going to be running out of the Indian national capital. All the top leaders are here. What is your message to the G20 president and to all the leaders who are going to be deliberating on all these issues?
We support the concept of one world, one family, one future. It needs to be democratic. It needs to be fair. It needs to be equitable.
Very well said. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.